This has been it's been a lot of fun this hour. She's really brought to us, whether it's earrings or rings or bangle bracelets and things like that. And she also brings along watches, because in Victoria Wieck's jewelry line, she brings the gamut. She does a little bit, or I should say a lot, of every category of jewelry. This is the mesh bracelet black dial crystal watch. And it's gonna be in your choice of gold tone or rose tone. And rose tone has really been, the most popular and the most sought after in terms of colors of metals over the last several years. And it really came on strong. Everyone was kind of really gravitating towards the pink color here, and then really building their rose tone wardrobe, because most of us, if we had a piece, and many of us didn't for a long time, if we had a piece, we only had one piece. So then it was like, okay, I've got rose tone earrings, but I don't have anything to wear with them, or rose tone bracelet, but I don't have anything to wear with it. So it's nice that we can continue to build that rose tone wardrobe if that's what we want to do, or if you want to continue to lean to the yellow metals, you can do that as well. But let's talk about the details on this. You'll see the face on this one. It's a black dial, which is a little bit unusual. Typically in watches, we'll see a white dial or a mother of pearl or something of that nature. But the black dial, I think in this case, in either choice, really gives it something extra special, very much a designer kind of look. I'll tell you, if you want the rose tone though, we have 30 of them remaining, and that's it. And then we really only have, a few left of the gold tone. So we don't have a lot of either one of them, but I'll just kind of stick with that rose tones that you can see. It is a mesh bracelet on this. So I like that it's this wheat link mesh going all the way through, and it's a closed link, so you don't have to worry about it being uncomfortable against your wrist or anything of that nature. Also notice, this one is has a different shape. It's more of like an egg shape, not quite an oval, not quite a round, almost like an egg shape here. And you notice where the hand is, where you're going to change the change the hands or change the time. It's a little bit low